Hey everybody, it's low carb keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you, as always, keto without the crazy. We have such a huge topic to talk about today, but I don't want to ignore some very cool stuff that I do want to tell you about. So we'll get to the topic in a minute. First, if you are interested in any of the 3 books I've written, there are links below in the notes. If you are interested in a one-on-one consultation, I do provide consultations, also link below in the notes. And the world is starting to open up post-COVID-19. Human interaction is starting to happen. In-person low-carb and keto events and conferences are starting to come back. And I will be appearing in person at Low Carb San Diego in August 2021, so I'll put a link. I will also be appearing in the Netherlands in October. If you are in the Netherlands or anywhere near there, they are having an ancestral health symposium. I am speaking. Eric Westman is going to be there. I think Gary Taubes is going to be there. So if you are in the Netherlands or nearby, don't miss that. Last weekend of July, if you are anywhere near Highland County, Virginia, this teeny tiny little part of Virginia, almost on the border of West Virginia, it's the most beautiful town. I have some friends there. They are hosting an event. You know who else will be there? Like little nobody Amy Berger will be there, but Rob Wolf, the man himself who I've been following forever, and Rob Wolf will be there. I think Kirk Parsley is going to be there. He's like the sleep doc. He's a big sleep expert. I'm trying to remember who else. I think Mark Cucuzella, a very great keto MD. A couple of other people. That's who I remember off the top of my head. Okay. Anyway, so check out those events in person to meet me. Okay, over 2 minutes. We have to get to the topic because it's huge. What is hunger? How do you know when you're hungry versus bored or having just a sugar craving? How do you know when you're not hungry anymore? Like when you're having a meal, how do you know you've had enough? How do you know when to stop? And these questions are simple to ask, right? They came out of my mouth easily, but what is hunger? How do you know when you're hungry versus craving or versus just being bored? Or how do you know when you've had a... Very simple to ask, not simple to answer by any stretch. And the funny thing is, these questions, they almost shouldn't be questions, right? We almost shouldn't have to ask, well, how do I know if I'm hungry? Like, I don't know how to gauge if I'm hungry, or like I always eat too much because I'm uncomfortable. I don't know when to stop. We shouldn't have to ask these things, but we do. So many of us have lost the ability to self-regulate naturally that we do have to ask these questions. So I want to make that very clear right here at the beginning. If you maybe feel almost a little embarrassed or a little like, what's wrong with me? Like, I don't know how to tell when I'm hungry anymore, or like I don't know what is inappropriate. I don't know if I'm eating too little or too much. These are perfectly legitimate questions. And the reason I know they are is because I get asked them all the time. And I have been delaying this video because it's such a big topic, and how many times have I said that I'm going to make shorter videos? I'll tell you right now, this ain't going to be a short one. And that's fine. If it's a topic that is important, which this is, and there's a lot of nuance, which there is, then it's just going to take as long as it takes. So with that in mind, I have no notes, so I'll try to be coherent in some fashion. Let me start off by saying that there is a reason I hate meal plans, and I have not once in my life created a meal plan for somebody. In fact, in the book that I wrote with Dr. Westman, End Your Carb Confusion, we specifically said No, we are not providing you a meal plan and we're not giving you recipes. We prefer to show you how simple it is to eat this way without a plan. When you know the foods you can have and you know the foods you need to avoid, you really don't need a plan. Now, that is no disrespect to anyone who does meal plans. I have friends and colleagues that make a living out of telling people what to eat. I will link down in the notes below to a video I did on why I don't do meal plans. One of the reasons is I don't know how hungry you're going to be on any given day. And so in all the work I've done with clients and through our Keto Made Simple Masterclass, we often get the question, or not a question, it's people sort of wondering, some days I'm like a bottomless pit. I can't get enough. I can't stop eating. And then other days I can barely look at food. Like I'm just not interested. And they wonder why. And I think that that's perfectly normal and perfectly natural. I think what's totally unnatural is for you to expect to have the exact same appetite level every single day. No matter what, no matter how much sleep you got, no matter where you are in your cycle, ladies, no matter how active you were earlier that day or the day before or the week before, these things are not things that regulate from minute to minute. It could be a day or two later that some of these things start to affect you hormonally and metabolically. I don't do meal plans because I don't want to tell you to have 1,437 calories every single day, regardless of how you actually feel. If you're not that hungry one day, don't force feed yourself just because the sheet of paper I gave you had a number on it. And if you're especially ravenous one day, don't limit yourself to X calories because Amy said I'm only allowed to have that many because it's Tuesday. This is insanity in my thinking. Now, in the eating disorder recovery world, in certain medical circumstances, there is absolutely a role for a dictated meal plan because you do have to make sure you are getting enough food or certain amounts of certain things. I'm not saying there's never a reason for it. I'm just saying the majority of people who come to me for help with weight loss or fat loss or some type of metabolic thing that we know gets better with low carb and keto, that's not their situation. So if you are someone that has asked yourself that question, why, like some days I'm this bottomless pit and other days I don't even think about food, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think you're human. And I think that happens to me too. And I sometimes have to remind myself, like, oh, I'm not really hungry. Oh, well, I ate a ton yesterday. I probably shouldn't be as hungry today. I think over the long term, it evens out. The day to day, as long as over the long term. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing is, I don't know where to go because there's so many different directions to go in. Let's talk about keto first overall and then kind of get into some details. Another thing that we wrote about in End Your Carb Confusion was that for some people, hunger very, very much is tied to blood sugar regulation. So I shouldn't even say hunger, I should say the sensation of hunger, the perception of being hungry is tied to what? Bottoming out on that blood sugar roller coaster journey. And it doesn't even have to be overt hypoglycemia, meaning if you were to check your blood sugar, it might not be 40 something milligrams per deciliter, whatever that translates to in millimolars. It's probably 2 point something or low threes. I don't know. Sorry. I need to learn to do that calculation in my head. I can't yet. So it's not even so much the absolute level of your blood glucose, but rather how quickly it fell from where it was before. So, if you have reactive hypoglycemia, let's say, I don't even want to make up numbers, but let's say you have a bagel and orange juice for breakfast. And so now, boom, your blood sugar is really on the rise. maybe it came down to like 84, which milligrams per deciliter. 84 is a totally normal blood glucose. That is not low by any stretch of the imagination. But if your blood glucose was 215 and it went down to 84 over the course of an hour, or less than it, now you're in trouble. Now you are feeling ravenous and panicky and shaky and like you need to eat something immediately. That's not hunger because you just had a bagel and orange juice. That is a nervous system, brain, central nervous system reaction. So with regard to keto, obviously, because of how well it evens out those fluctuations in blood sugar, many people find themselves sometimes for the first time in their life feeling controllable hunger. It's not that you're never hungry, but you don't get that panicky, ravenous, immediate need to eat anything that's handy. It's a very just, the hunger kind of comes on gradually. I've said this a million times in past videos. Oh, I'm starting to feel that hunger pang, but I can wait. I can wait an hour, no big deal. I could even wait 2 hours. I'm not going to kill somebody if I don't eat in 4 seconds, no big deal. So when, instead of having those crazy the violent ups and downs in blood sugar, you just have these very gentle little things throughout the day, you can you have a very different perception of hunger. So then, you very easily adjust to going many hours between meals. Again, sometimes for the first time in people's lives where they didn't snack and they didn't feel scared if they didn't have something in their briefcase or their gym bag or their purse. Like, what if I get hungry? What if I get hungry? I'll wait till my next meal like a human, So some of this has to do with the difference between satiation and satiety. And these words might be brand new to you, or you may have heard them before, but maybe you're not clear about the distinction. I'm going to read a really quick line from a paper that I think explains the difference really well, and then we'll break down a little bit. All right. Satiation and satiety are central concepts in the understanding of appetite control, and both have to do with the inhibition of eating. Satiation occurs during an eating episode and brings it to an end. Satiety starts after the end of eating and prevents further eating before the return of hunger. So, what does that mean in plain English? Like, thank you, scientists, but what does this mean in plain English? Satiation is what happens when you're eating a meal, and when you reach the point of satiation, you are satiated. That's when you put the fork down and kind of push away from the table, or maybe push the plate away. Like, I am satiated. I've had enough to eat in this particular eating episode. Like, I'm done, I'm full, I'm good to go. So that's more the short term, I'm done. Satiety is what keeps that feeling of fullness going for a few hours before you feel the need to have another meal. So I hope that makes sense. Satiation is what brings your meal to a close. Like, I'm done, I'm good. Satiety is what keeps you going without feeling hungry until the hunger starts coming on and you have your next meal. So I think many of us find, maybe not all, there's always exceptions, many of us find that because of the hormonal signals that fat and protein rich foods send compared to the hormonal signals sent by refined carbohydrates, that satiety is much higher on a low carb diet. Meaning, satiety meaning that you stay full, or you stay satiated between those meals much longer. This is why I think for so many people, quote unquote, intermittent fasting is easy on keto or low carb, because your food fills you up so well and keeps you full. That satiety lasts many hours so that you might be able to skip that lunch, right? You might be able to just work right through because you're not even hungry. Your satiety was so high that it just kept you going all day without even needing or thinking of food. So many of us find that. Some people will find it even with carbs, particularly from the whole food carbs that really take a little bit longer to digest, like a sweet potato, like black beans, like, brown rice or something like that. And there's always exceptions, I know, but compare that to something like drinking grape juice or a sugar frosted breakfast cereal type thing, like very different hormonal and metabolic effects from those foods. So I know for me personally, I can say that eating this way, meaning very low carb keto, really does rein in my appetite for the most part. I was definitely a major chronic snacker when I was younger. If I wasn't eating, I was thinking about eating, and now I still love food. I might still think about food just because I'm a foodie, but I can go many, many hours without eating, and I'm not scared of like, oh, what if I get hungry? Or like, where will I stop? Where can I it's sort of normal now for me to go many hours, and it's not even a thing I think about anymore. So what else can I say about hunger? It's going to be different from day to day. That's normal. Satiety versus satiation. Okay, hunger. Maybe one of the most important questions: how do you know you're hungry? What is hunger? And I'm going to be honest with you. I can really only talk about it through my own personal experience of the sensation of hunger. I don't know how it feels to be inside anybody else's body or brain. So I can tell you what it feels like to me. And there probably are formal academic definitions in scientific papers, but who cares? Because it doesn't really matter what some university egghead says about it. What matters is how you feel, how you navigate it, and what it means for you in terms of sticking to whatever eating plan you want to stick to, be it keto or anything else. So hunger is different from just being snacky or wanting sugar, having a carb craving or a sugar craving. So if I ever use the shorthand and say sugar craving, I don't just mean sugar. I should just say carb craving, because some people really are addicted to sweets. They want candy, they want chocolate, they want, just sugar. Other people really don't have an issue with sugar, but they might really be a bread junkie, or like, pretzels or crackers, stuff like that, that's starchy but not sweet. So it's all refined carbs, right? For me personally, and this, I did not make this up. I don't remember where I heard it first, but a good way to distinguish hunger, physical hunger, from a craving, there's a couple of different ways. One of the I think most sort of informative, helpful ways to think about this all is to think of whatever food that's on your plan that you like. For example, let's say, a sirloin steak and curry roasted cauliflower. Really, now, if you don't like curry, this doesn't work, but think of whatever, meat and vegetable combo that you do like, that you would normally have. And you ask yourself, am I hungry enough for that? Like, would I eat a steak and cauliflower right now? If the answer is yes, you're probably hungry. If the answer is, oh no, I don't want a steak, but man, that donut looks really good over there, that's not hunger, that's a sugar craving. Well, no, I don't want, you normally love bacon and eggs, right? And you're feeling kind of snacky, you want to eat. Would I eat a plate of bacon and eggs right now? Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, no, I don't want the bacon and eggs, but oh, those cookies look really good. That's one way to distinguish it. But then, see, the drawback to that is, because this, again, from my own personal experience, there's been plenty of times. I mean, I've been at this, nutrition thing for long enough that I know how to distinguish myself, the craving versus hunger. I might be truly, legitimately, physically hungry, but I'm just not in the mood for the steak and the cauliflower. Like, I like steak and cauliflower. It's not that I don't like them, but right now, I don't want steak. Ooh, but a pork chop, yeah. Let's do grilled pork chops. Still a quote unquote real food, a perfectly good, wholesome food that's not a pile of sugar and crap. So, okay, maybe I don't want the steak. Maybe I want salmon and Brussels sprouts. Just so it that method can work. You just have to pick a food that you would be in the mood for in that moment if it was real hunger. Another strategy to possibly, help you think about this is, when did I have my last meal? Is it reasonable that I should be hungry now? Like, did I just eat 30 minutes ago, or has it been 4 or 5 hours, And again, more nuances needed here. I said this was going to be a long video. If it has only been 30 minutes or 1 hour, usually it won't be 30 minutes. Maybe it's been an hour, maybe it's been 90 minutes. It's okay to be hungry. If you are actually hungry, that's okay, but you have to ask yourself why. Did you not eat a large enough meal at the meal you had an hour ago or 90 minutes or 30 minutes ago? So if you are hungry, like, it doesn't mean that something's wrong or you're a bad person, or it just means, oh, I didn't eat enough of the appropriate foods for me to keep me satiated, to keep that satiety going for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, right? So the answer might be that yes, you are hungry an hour later, but why? Did you have 2 eggs when you should have had 4? Ladies, I'm constantly telling you to eat more protein. Did you have your stupid 3-ounce chicken breast when you probably should have had 6 ounces? So that's something to think about. When was my last meal? And everyone has a different approach to meal timing, to intermittent fasting, to whatever. I'm not making any recommendations here right now for anybody. I just want to make one point because it's something that has come up in our Keto Made Simple Masterclass. People will say something like, I can only go 4 hours between meals. I've only been able to go 4 or 5 hours. And I'm thinking, like, that actually sounds about right. I mean, if you're having 3 meals a day, eating every 4 to 5 hours probably is okay, right? Especially 5. 4 is maybe a little on the low side, but not really. I don't want anyone to feel bad if you're not going 7 or 8 hours between every meal, or if you are having 3 meals a day. That's allowed. You know what else is allowed? Snacking. Some people do better grazing, especially. This is a population that is neglected in most keto talks and whatever. Post-bariatric surgery patients. If you are someone that has had bariatric surgery, depending on where you are in your process, how many years out from your procedure you are, these people can't eat 1 or 2 meals a day because they can't get in what they need. Now, granted, the whole point of bariatric surgery is to force you to eat less, but you can't eat nothing. We still want you to get a certain amount of protein. And if you have had a procedure where you can't eat 8 ounces of chicken or 8 ounces of pork or beef or bison in a sitting, you need to graze. You need to have much more frequent, smaller meals. And that's okay. Like, don't listen to these people that make you think you're a moron or you're doing something wrong. God forbid you have more than 1 meal a day. No, just don't listen to those people. So it is, if you are getting hungry every 4 or 5 hours, I think that is fine. If you want to try to go 6 or 7 or whatever, then you need to have larger meals. You need to, or maybe you need to shift the composition of those meals. Maybe there's something in that meal that is making you feel hungry a little sooner than you would if you were eating something else. And I can't even make recommendations because that would be an individual thing for everybody. For some people, maybe it's more fiber in the form of broccoli and fibrous vegetables and, zucchini and cucumbers. For other people, it's just going to be a much, much bigger portion of protein. Or so it's totally individual, but I think as a general rule, that's something worth thinking about is, how long has it been since my last meal and what was that meal? So that's a way to think about hunger. Let me see what else. Yeah, give me a minute to think because I don't want to stop the video and then realize I have to do part 2 and 3 because I forgot all this critical stuff. Hunger and satiety. Oh, the fullness. So satiation versus satiety. If your meal is large enough and composed of things that work well for you, your satiety will be high, meaning that you will be able to go hours and hours before your next meal. So how do we learn to recognize satiation? That is really hard to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have it mastered yet myself. I'm 42 years old, so I've been eating food or drinking breast milk or something. I've been, having food in my GI tract for like almost 43 years, and I still have not mastered the art of stopping at exactly the right time. And for me personally, I can only speak for myself. It's because I love to eat. I love food. I do. And I'm not afraid to say it. I like food and I like eating. I wish I didn't. My boyfriend is 6'1". I could eat triple what that man eats. I'm 5'2". And I could put away way more food than he does. That is neither here nor there. That's just a little glimpse into my personal life. So the Japanese have a saying, and you've probably heard this. I don't know how true it is. It's just something that goes around the internet. Hara hachibu. If I'm probably butchering it, I'm sorry to anyone who's Japanese that is watching this. And it roughly translates to 80% full. You stop eating when you're 80% full. And I'm sure that works for some people. Amy Berger doesn't know how to stop eating until she's 116% full, until she's overstuffed. And there's a comedian, I've mentioned this in previous videos. I won't say his name because he got into some trouble with some scandals, but he said something to the effect of, let me see if I can get it right. My meal doesn't end when I'm satisfied. My meal isn't over until I hate myself. And we can giggle because it's funny, and we've all done it, and it's funny because we can all relate. Like, oh, me too. Many of us, myself included, not every meal every day, but very often, my signal to stop is physical pain, is being stuffed. Whether it's physical pain or like my pants are about to burst open. The worst thing you can do during a pandemic is wear elastic waist pants. Pro tip. Even though the pandemic is like almost over, so that is way too late a tip, but if that ever comes in handy for you again, the worst thing you can do if life is getting rough is get elastic waist pants. Okay. Another glimpse into the personal life. This is a fun video, isn't it? So yeah, it is really, really difficult to recognize when you are either 80% full, because you're not full, you're not stuffed, you're just you're getting there. You're 80% of the way there. And it's also hard even to stop at 100%, to stop at just the point where you've had enough, but not too much. That line is so hard to identify between just enough and, oh, I wish I hadn't had that one extra bite. I'll tell you something funny that I have actually found to be true. I just don't put it in practice. I heard this years and years ago, and I don't remember where, but when you're having a meal, maybe not like, if you're eating at your desk or you're eating in the car, that is a whole separate issue that I can't even get into. But let's say you're sitting down to a nice meal at home, dinner, or even lunch out with friends where it's casual. It's a humane, nice, enjoyable way of eating. Nobody's in a rush. You'll be eating and eating, doing your thing. At some point during that meal, you are going to sigh. You're going to sigh and you're going to kind of lean back and relax. That is when you should stop eating. That is your body's way of saying, I'm good. I'm good. You're not stuffed. You're never stuffed at the point of the sigh, but you're not hungry anymore. If you stopped at that point, you could get up from the table and go do something and you wouldn't be thinking, oh, I kind of wish I had 4 more bites of that thing, or like I wish I had another helping. You'd be okay. You're not full. You're definitely not stuffed. You haven't gone overboard, but you're not even full. But you've had enough. Your appetite has been satiated. That is the satiation. So I'm going to challenge myself to do this because I haven't paid attention to that sigh in a long time. But it's going to tell me, like, I would love to hear in the comments if you do this and if you notice the sigh. And it does have to be over the course of a meal that takes more than 8 minutes. So again, if you're standing at your desk or standing over the sink, snarfing something out of a container, which, nobody ever does that. I don't know how that works. But in the crazy made up imaginary world that nobody lives in, where we're standing up eating out of containers in front of the fridge, you're probably not going to have the sigh because you don't even have enough time and it's not the right physical setting. So under the circumstances in which the sigh might happen, pay attention to the sigh. That is your harahachi boo. All right, what else can I say? I really, there are no exact answers because everything I've said might not apply to you at all. Your perception of hunger, your feelings about all this might be completely different. And I don't know that I agree with the thinking that you crave a food because your body needs something it has. Like, there would be people that say, if you're craving chocolate, it's because you need magnesium. Cocoa doesn't have that much magnesium in it, people, okay? Or if you're craving whatever, it's because you need some specific vitamin or mineral that food has. If somebody wants to tell me what cheese doodles have in them that my body legitimately needs, like on a molecular level, I'm all ears, but sometimes I don't know that that's really true. So we can't even honor that craving, like, oh, well, if you're craving this, it's because... What exactly is in Cool Ranch Doritos that the human body requires other than energy, than calories, right? Because it certainly has those. No, I'm being facetious, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to think of what else I can say because I don't want to end this video and have to do 2 more follow-ups that nobody's going to watch. And I'm looking at this paper because I said I don't have notes, but I have like 2 sentences worth of notes that I've already covered. I guess I can say, if you are new to keto or new to low carb, new to carbohydrate restriction, whatever amount of, whatever degree of restriction you're doing with carbs, give yourself some grace. Give yourself the adjustment period. This isn't going to happen overnight. For some people it does. For some people, within about 48 hours, within about 2 days of being like virtually without carbs, the hunger gone. For some people, this is not unheard of. For some people, it's not that magical. For some people, it might take 3 or 4 days. There's a lot of different reasons why that might be and to what is responsible for that happening. But if you're new to keto and you haven't had this magical disappearing hunger or more well-controlled hunger, it's okay. Let your body adjust. And it's actually rare that I get a client who's brand new to keto. Most people who come to me for help have already been doing some version of a low carb or ketogenic diet, and they just need help troubleshooting, or they kind of need to refine things to get where they want to go. So on the rare occasion that I do get someone who's brand new, never done this before, they are a clean slate. I love it, because I don't have to dispel all the myths depending on whether or not they've tried to learn about it on their own already. Anyway, my point is, I don't want them, or you, if you're new to this, concerned about calories or portion sizes or fat or anything except carbs for the first couple of weeks. I do not care how much you're eating or how often. I don't care if you're having a ginormous steak 3 times a day with roasted broccoli with butter on it, with cheese, whatever. I don't care. Just get rid of the carbs. Let's start there. Let's get your body off that blood sugar roller coaster. Let's get you adjusted to being without the carbs. Then we'll mess around with the portions if we need to. Because again, with the well-controlled hunger, most people, not all, most people find it much easier to sort of naturally regulate what they're doing anyway, without even deliberately trying. Again, without having a meal plan and macros to follow and all this. So with hunger, because when you're brand new, it's so unusual to be able to skip a meal or to be able to go hours without snacking. If you're just in the habit, do it. I don't care. Snack, eat as many times as you want a day, eat as much quantity as you want, as long as it's all very, very low in carbs. Because your hunger will adjust eventually. And if it hasn't, here's something I can say. If you have been doing low carb or keto for a while, and I mean, but what do I mean by a while? I don't know, a few months, not 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, like let's say at least 3 months or so, and you do still feel very hungry all day, then I would recommend looking at Dr. Westman's page 4. I have a link to it in the notes below, or doing our Keto Made Simple Masterclass, which is based on the page 4. That's the food list we use. We gave it a different name, but it's essentially the same list, because we've had several students in our masterclass say that, they were doing, so Dr. Westman calls it internet keto, this newfangled internet keto, versus his version that he has called prescription strength keto. And one of the big differences is that we count total carbs, not net carbs. We don't subtract fiber, we don't subtract sugar, alcohol, nothing. And I know that's a bit controversial right now, because if you know the Dr. Ted Naiman, who I know and love dearly, he is very big on net carbs. So you can have like a mountain of broccoli and zucchini and cauliflower and radishes and whatever, because it's like this many total carbs when you subtract out the fiber. Dr. Westman doesn't want to do that. And, I'm part of the program that he created, so I respect that. But my own clients, I do something else. I'm talking about the Keto Made Simple Masterclass, which is their thing. But that works. I like people subtracting fiber from vegetables and nuts and seeds and things like that. Where net carbs gets people into trouble is when they're doing the keto cake and the keto brownies and the almond flour cookies and the coconut flour, this and that, because if they're subtracting the fiber and the sugar alcohols, that can get a lot of people into issues. So anyway, that's not the only difference between the internet keto and our prescription strength keto, but getting back to the matter at hand, if you have been doing your version of keto that you've cobbled together from 86 different YouTube channels and 5 different books and blogs and Reddit forums, and you're doing your own thing in the Wild West, and you are still hungry all the time, and you don't understand what everybody's talking about, how they're not hungry on keto and they're not craving, I would recommend checking out that page 4 food list or the Keto Made Simple Masterclass. Next round is coming up not too far in the future, because you will probably find that when you hunker down and do that prescription strength keto, you will experience that very dramatic change in your perception of hunger. So let's see, coming up on 40 minutes. Let me just make sure there's nothing crucial. I mean, if it's crucial, I'll make another video. I just know when I do part 2 and part 3, no one ever watches them. So it's like easier to make one really long one than 3 short ones. I don't know. I guess before I end, I'll just kind of reiterate something that I said earlier. And this is speaking mostly to women, but to anyone who this applies to, it just is going to apply more to women. You might be hungry because you're not eating enough. And I know, I said earlier, like, think about, okay, is it reasonable for me to be hungry? Like, did I just eat an hour ago? Why am I hungry? Well, what did you eat an hour ago? Did you have one hard-boiled egg when you should have had 4? Did you have, like, we have a tendency to bring the old calorie counting, portion control, restriction mindset of diets past, the ghost of diets past. We bring that into the new keto world where it doesn't belong. Leave it in the past. It didn't serve you then, and it's not going to serve you now. The beauty of keto is that this is why when I have people that are brand new, we don't use the C word. We don't talk about calories. We don't talk about anything except carbs. Just eat. Just eat. Because your appetite will tend to regulate naturally, and you don't have to limit that stupid deck of cards size of protein or the palm of your hand. You don't have to have that. You could have 3. If you are really hungry, you have however big a portion you darn well want. And then see how full you are. That's something we've heard a lot in our Keto Made Simple Masterclass. People increasing the size of their, I'll call it first meal. Breakfast is very off-putting because people want to fast or whatever. They might have been having like 1 egg, 2 eggs. Now they're having 4 and 2 strips of bacon. And all of a sudden, they can go 5 hours without even thinking of their next meal. So sometimes you just need to eat more. It's okay to be hungry. Remember what I said at the very, very beginning of this. Your hunger will fluctuate. Some days you'll be really hungry. Some days you won't. With that in mind, before I close, I do want to honor and acknowledge the fact that there are some people who have such disordered histories with food. Again, I hate the word relationship with food, but such disordered histories and behaviors and patterns with food that they do maybe need a professional to give them some ballpark advice for numbers. And I still think that it's a bad idea to give somebody a plan where, okay, every single day you're going to have exactly this many calories and exactly this much fat and this much protein. I think that's stupid. I think it's dumb. But there are situations in which somebody does need to be told, more so like, hey, you need to eat at least X calories. If you have a very severe history of under eating and restricting and being sick because of that, it's not so much like, hey, you need to have 2,000 every day. You need to hit this number. It's like, I want you to have this much so that we can make sure you're at least getting enough. And then beyond that, have as much as you want, but in order for you to recover, in order for you to get healthy and give your body what it needs to thrive, we need you to be eating at least this bottom amount every day or close to it, and then on the other side, of course, there are people who are very, very severe compulsive overeaters, binge eaters, but in that situation, I don't know that giving them a meal plan is going to help much. If they could have controlled their eating and their intake, they would have already done it. So for some people, keto by itself helps that. It does help the binge tendencies go away. There was actually a published paper that was just a very short case series, 3 patients whose binge eating disorder was put into, I would say remission, darn near close to totally gone, going keto. And that does not happen for everybody. It doesn't. But, maybe under the guidance of a professional, it could get better. It could help. And even in a binge scenario like that, I could see a rationale, not necessarily for capping the calories, but more so like, hey, I want you to eat 3 meals a day at least, and I want you to have at least X amount of good solid protein food at that meal, because the protein foods are what tend to keep us, that tends to lead to the satiety, like a big, nice, solid portion of protein where you can go all those hours between meals. And it might, and this is a speculation, might lessen that tendency to binge when you really physiologically and hormonally and metabolically are on a more corrective diet. So in that sense, like in a potential way to control someone who has a tendency to eat too much, you might want a plan where, like, okay, if you stick to this exact plan, you'll have under this many calories. So again, there are reasons to use meal plans and numbers. Most people who come to me, I really don't think fall into that category. And I guess I'm just trying to emphasize that it is okay to trust your body once your body is off that roller coaster. And I am 100% sure that there is some important stuff that I've forgotten, but I'm gonna quit now for this video, and if something crucial comes to me, I will just make another follow-up. And if you try that little side trick, that little harahachi-bu, wait for the side during your nice casual leisurely meal, I would love to know if you find that that is a thing for you. And that's it. toitnutrition.com. Check out the links below for the events I'll be speaking at and any other thing that's going on. Take care.